The Bank of Canada dropped a big bomb on us yesterday, increasing their rate a full percentage when many speculated that it would just be a 75-point increase. So this has gone beyond expectations. And what exactly does this mean for our market, our Calgary real estate market? Let's find out together as we discuss all these points. First of all, how it affects people right now. Well, I'm going to give you an example of myself. I'm in a variable rate mortgage, and my mortgage, my original principal amount, is around $400,000. So that means this increase of 1% is affecting my payments by $200 a month. That money is just evaporating, going nowhere. It sucks, but that's on me because I took a variable rate. I'm still okay with it, by the way, because I think personally I just felt right about it. For you, better to discuss with a mortgage broker what's the right plan if you are planning to buy a house and get that kind of advice from somebody who does mortgages for a living. This may cause a bit of hesitation in the market right now, because if you are a buyer and you had a certain budget in mind, well, variable rates still may be the best way to go right now if you're trying to save money on monthly payments, but that's now, if it's around $400,000, for example, $200 a month more than what you were originally planning. So it could cause a bit of hesitation. It could cause a bit of stalling with buyers making decisions in this market. And ultimately, this could affect the number of sales. It's too early to tell, but all indications are there. Now, if you're a seller in this market, well, it's good to know about what's going on, because again, we're talking about that buyer hesitation. People may not be pouncing on those properties as quickly as before. And in fact, I'm going to share a little bit of information with you right now. First off, what you're looking at here is the number of showings per listing over at RE/MAX first, which is my brokerage. You can see the blue line is 2021, the red line we're looking at obviously looks very much like a roller coaster for many good reasons. And what this is showing is the average number of showings per listing. So as you can see, we look at the end of January, we could see the middle of February there, almost about 16 showings per listing on average, which is absolutely crazy when you compare it to the average of last year, which looks like it was somewhere around the 4 showings per average. And we're currently sitting at about 3.8 for the last week of June, which is obviously a bit of a slowdown. Now I'm also going to show you our latest Honometer stat. Again, the slide continues. From our height, 64.2% of listings were selling at full asking price or higher not too long ago, and this has just been a steady decline since then. We're sitting now at 29.2%, which is just barely a little bit higher than the peak of things a year ago, where in May we were at 28.8%. So what does this tell us? Basically, we have been in a decline of sales and a decline of that hot kind of demand that we've seen in this market since February, March, April. That's when it started to really head down. And I think this is simply due to an influx of supply on our market. So more homes for sale. It gave buyers a more relaxing procedure of buying a home. They had lots to choose from. There was no need to pounce on them like there was before. Let's all remember the main driver of a market is supply and demand. Currently, our supply is a little bit higher than where we were a few months ago, but the demand is also a little bit lower than we were a few months ago. But when we compare that to last year, the demand is still pretty much the same, but our supply is lower than what we were at last year. And why don't we take a look at inventory right now and overall stats. So we'll begin with the detached market here. For June last month, we had 2,667 active listings. Out of those properties, 1,483 sold, which is down about 8.5% from the month before, May 2022. And about 18% down from a year ago. I know we often talk about months of inventory. but today I'm going to talk about our listing absorption rate. It's just kind of the opposite of months of inventory. So to get that, we take the total number of listings sold in the detached market of 1,483 divided by 2,667, and we have about 55.6%. It indicates that we are still in a seller's market, but we are getting a little bit closer to that balanced market where it's kind of that no man's land. Again, all it is more homes are hitting the market. But also, I feel like demand is tapering off. I know I'm sharing some information that may be looked at as negative if you're a seller, but let's look at the positive for a second here. Currently, the benchmark price for a detached home in Calgary is sitting at $647,500. So a year ago, it was $560,100. We've definitely gone up since then. And you can see on the right, most of that increase has been since, December, January is when it started going up. For June, you can see it's the first time this calendar year that we've actually seen a decrease in benchmark pricing, although, let's be honest, it's only 0.15%. However, I do suspect that trend of the negative is going to continue into the next month. I think that should give us a chance to keep things sustained for a little while, and I don't think we need to worry about a steep decline in prices. There may be a little bit caused by the hesitation due to, once again, thanks Bank of Canada for your 1% increase. I've seen occasions where, for example, when the stress test was introduced, it did cause some hesitation in buyers and we saw a drop off of activity, but very soon after we picked up where we left off and buyers were right back at it. And another great example is when the world was struck by the news of COVID for the first time. Things dropped off the earth in terms of activity and sales and you name it. But it took a couple of months, people were back shopping again. That's because it just takes a little while for people to readjust their expectations and get back to what they really wanted to do in the first place, which was to buy a home. Final food for thought is, here in Alberta, I feel like we are set up to be a resilient market, much more so than the markets we're seeing in Ontario and BC, where things are, for lack of a better term, crashing. But that's because their prices were so inflated. There was nowhere else for those prices to go but to fall. In Calgary, we didn't see that much of an increase when you compare it to those markets. We may still see a small adjustment, but I'm looking forward to seeing the real numbers and seeing what happens at the end of July, and I'm going to share that activity with you. I'm Glenn McCormick with Justin Haber and Associates. Have a wonderful July. Enjoy the weather, the stampede, what's left of it. Go experience some happiness. See you next time.